Max, hand me the little mini Max here because, if this Max were introducing the show, you would find it pretty creepy. Probably as creepy as these blow-up dolls now filling the empty tables at restaurants. Here is a headline that I found. Actually, it was Geek Boy from Ireland, and he tweeted at us and he said, Kaiser Report, fake customers in the restaurant, an illusion of demand. There's a Kaiser Report analogy in there somewhere. And he was referring to an RT headline that one German restaurant has found a solution to maintaining social distancing on its reopening: mannequins. The family-run business has filled tables with plastic people in order to keep customers apart and create a vibrant dining atmosphere that is not creepy at all. Nope. Not creepy.
No, it's like that film Airplane, remember? They had the blow-up pilot.
Yes.
Yeah, and all kinds of mischief followed. Catch that film. Very amusing. Well, yes, the Potemkin villages in Northern Ireland during the crisis to make it look like stuff was going on, that there was business activity where there were no business activity. So this illusion of demand is key to our modern economy because it's demand first, then supply. Usually people think about supply first, then demand. Like, oh, I'm going to make a really nice corkscrew. And if I do a great job, there's going to be huge demand for my corkscrew. But here in a modern society, with the financialization that we're living under, demand is created first in the form of massive oceans of fiat money that flood the globe, and then all that fiat money is looking for a home, so it ends up supporting supply. But because the supply is not genuinely the result of demand, you end up with malinvestment. You end up with really kind of dysfunctional economy. And the solution, of course, would be to stop flooding the money with the globe with fiat money. But what we hear from the central bankers is that they're going to keep doubling down.
Now let's compare the economy and the economic and monetary and financial system to this situation in Germany. They are potentially evidence that even mute and lifeless guests can ruin your meal. So the same thing with these blow-up dolls, these mannequins. Of course they can't eat, so they can't consume, so they can't give you business, so the money doesn't circulate.
We are projecting global growth in 2020 to fall to minus 3%. Now this is a downgrade of 6.3 percentage points from January 2020, a major revision over a very short period of time. This makes the Great Lockdown the worst recession since the Great Depression and far worse than the global financial crisis. Assuming the pandemic fades in the second half of 2020 and that policy actions taken around the world are effective in preventing widespread firm bankruptcies, extended job losses, and system-wide financial strains, we project global growth in 2021 to rebound to 5.8%. Now this recovery in 2021 is only partial, as the level of economic activity is projected to remain below the level we had projected for 2021 before the virus hit. The cumulative loss to global GDP over 2020 and 2021 from the pandemic crisis could be around $9 trillion, greater than the economies of Japan and Germany combined. Now this is a truly global crisis, as no country is spared. Countries reliant on tourism, travel, and entertainment for their growth are experiencing major disruptions. Emerging market and developing economies face additional challenges. They face unprecedented reversals in capital flows, major currency pressures, while at the same time coping with weaker health systems and much lower fiscal space to support their economies. So for the first time since the Great Depression, both advanced economies and emerging and developing economies are in recession. For 2020, growth in advanced economies is projected at minus 6%. Emerging market and developing economies, which typically have normal growth levels well above advanced economies, are also projected to have negative growth of minus 1% and minus 2.2% if you exclude China. Now, income per capita is projected to shrink for over 170 countries. Now, we're projecting recoveries for both advanced economies and emerging and developing economies in 2021, but that again is partial.
Every normal person in the world is now getting to see how creepy the world is. To the Kaiser report for the past 10 years, we see the economic metrics, and it is as creepy to us as it is creepy to you to sit in a weird restaurant filled with half the customers are mannequins, right? So half the money supply is the equivalent of a mannequin. Even more than half of the economic activity is just the equivalent of a blow-up mannequin sitting there disturbing your meal, right? Because it's disturbing to sit there and look at it. That's what we see when we look at fracking, what we see when we look at negative interest rates, what we see when we look at the Fed buying ETFs. It's the same sort of disturbing fake economy.
Look, when you go to negative interest rates and you go to negative oil prices, you're essentially saying that time has stopped and space no longer exists. So why not in a restaurant full of lifeless, without any animation, blow-up consumers that are mere representations of life, right? So this is essentially a march of the plastic army that is descending now into our lives in all manifestations, driven, I would imagine, by some kernel of AI, right? So they're conditioning us to accept a blow-up doll future. It started in the 1970s, and now it's got its culmination here in the 21st century. The plastic army is upon us.
To President Obama's speeches over the weekend.
Look, I think he was an incompetent president. I think President Obama was one of the worst presidents in the history of our country. I think he was an incompetent president. I know what he left us. He left us a broken military. He left us a military that ISIS was all over the place, and I got rid of it. I knocked out 100% of the caliphate, and even you will admit that, John. And when I came in, it was a mess. But we had a broken military. We had a depleted military. We had little on the shelves, if you talk about pandemics. We had a country that was a mess. We were paying high taxes. We were paying, and outside of this artificial event that took place 2 months ago, and I'm going to build the country into stronger and better than it was even then. And it's already happening, and you can see it. You can see it today. Just take a look at the stock market. Look at what's going on. Look at the great numbers that are being called, and look at these medical companies calling in. And we're talking about more than one. So many things are happening. But I think President Obama was an incompetent president. He did a terrible job. And by the way, there was great division in our country with President Obama. You didn't see it as much, but there was tremendous division in our country.
Acknowledge there's division now, too, right?
I think we'll have great, yeah. You know, success brings. We had a great success going. Things were really going along, and then China gave us a wonderful gift, okay? And it wasn't pretty. It came out of China, just in case you had any questions, John. It came out of China, spread to Europe, but also came here. And the whole world became infected by this horrible thing that they unleashed one way or the other. Not a good situation, not a good situation. I'm not a man that likes taking that. What happened to us, and it was totally preventable. They could have stopped it at the source. They knew it was happening. We wanted to go in, others wanted to go in. They wouldn't let the world, as you know, they wouldn't let other countries go in. Other countries wanted to. World Health wanted to, in all fairness to World Health. They wouldn't let World Health in. And we're a part of World Health. They wouldn't let them in either. They could have stopped it at the source, and they chose not to. And yet, they stopped them from going to Wuhan into different parts of China. So you couldn't go into Beijing. What do you think of that, Tillman? You couldn't go into China. But I better not get you involved in the China thing. You got enough problems with...
Districts in China are back, though. They are doing business.
I'm asking an interesting guy that question. But seriously, look, they wouldn't let him into China, but they'd let him into Europe, and they'd let him into all over the world, including the United States. It's lucky I did the ban. That's all I can tell you. It's lucky I did the ban.